Anyway, so we're here again, Sunday again. And again, I don't have a guest. I have no one to talk to. I mean, I could probably invite the other people. I didn't plan ahead to talk to anyone. And this week, instead of me yelling about how competent fighting game companies are, we're gonna talk about combat mechanics, fighting games, how they're implemented, or what they bring to the game. The most fighting games did not have any combat mechanics, to my knowledge, in terms of here's just a thing you get for losing. Like, as far as I'm aware, there wasn't many things that were implemented in fighting games that just handed you extra resources for losing. The only one I can think of is Samurai Showdown, and it was probably the first game to do something like that. You know, here's this thing you get for getting hit. But in the case of Samurai Showdown, the thing that you get for being hit is very punishable. Well, at least in this current Samurai Showdown. In the other Samurai Showdown, this is the case too. This very very punishable move because you get what's called a rage bar, and then with that rage bar, you get access to a move called weapon flipping technique. But the weapon flipping techniques are very strong when they hit, but you can't just throw it out willy nilly, and it's usually not very easy to land them in 5 special or in 7 outside of doing something that's also risky. And if you mess up, you're probably going to lose a majority of your health, or you in turn also get hit by a weapon flipping technique. So the rage meter in 5 special and in Samurai Showdown 7 is much. It's very tolerable for a combat mechanic because the risk reward is so balanced. The risk reward is so balanced that it's unfair that they get this for you hitting them, but you also know that if they can't just do it. Like, if you have proper defense, they're not going to hit you with it more than likely. And if they try to desperately use it, they may just end up losing more than they just play solid in the first place. I mean, just think about it. If you try to, in the Samurai Showdown 7 specifically, to land a weapon flipping technique, some of the best ways to do it, the easiest way to do it is to run up and land a throw. But throw can be punished with generic moves that everyone has in the game that takes over 70% of their health. So, take it as you will. I think that's fair. Getting a move that can swing the game in your favor, but if you don't use it properly, you lose automatically. That seems fair because you can still play like you don't have it. You don't have to use incredibly risky moves. Do anything with it. You could just keep playing had you been playing this prior to this, and it doesn't really affect you as a player. It's not that big of a deal. Now, some characters get more utility out of theirs when they have it, but normally that's offset by the character's design itself, and it's usually I can't really think of too many weapon flipping techniques in Samurai Showdown 7 where it's so egregious that I have to complain about it. I can't think of any really right now. I mean, Haomaru, maybe. That was the only one I could think of. But, they nerfed the hell out of that. It's still really good. But, for the most part, that was the most egregious one when the game came out. But combat mechanics never were really a staple in fighting games. You practically had to fight your way back out of everything. Whatever meter was gained. If there was meter in the game, if there was no meter in the game. If there was no meter in the game, you were kind of just like, you just had to fight back with whatever you had. But the issue is that now fighting, I can't really think. Luckily, Guilty Gear Drive doesn't really have anything I would call a combat mechanic. But for the most part, it seems pretty staple at this point for every game that is a fighting game to have some kind of way to win that was given to you by you losing in the first place. And obviously, like I said before, there were combat mechanics before, but they weren't so egregious. Now, as much as I like Street Fighter 4, I'm blaming Street Fighter 4. I blame Street Fighter 4 for two things I hate, actually. Street Fighter 4 had ultras. And while ultras, it's like the same as Samurai Showdown, where you have to land it in a combo in order for it to be beneficial. So he keeps it from being too ridiculous. Like ultras in Street Fighter 4 in the beginning were way more manageable than at the very end of Street Fighter 4. There was plenty of characters at the end of Street Fighter 4 whose ultras were like, they were just always good. And they had many uses. But in the very beginning, most Street Fighter 4 ultras were just practically your supers in prior Street Fighter titles. So you would just use them to add more damage for the most part. You know, there was I think the only character back then that had just an open use ultra was maybe Rose. No, Rose didn't even have that. Rose in the beginning only had an additional damage ultra or an anti-air ultra. So even in the beginning, almost all ultras in Street Fighter 4, well, all ultras in Street Fighter 4, they didn't serve a purpose outside of adding damage, which that's fine. It was as much as a high damage game that was, ultras weren't that crazy, mainly because you had to earn the first hit and there was no way to apply the ultra any other way outside of just landing the hit and maybe going for a YOLO chip. But as Street Fighter 4 progressed, more and more characters got more combat mechanic tied to their ultra and did not involve landing a hit, but just activating in neutral and then changing the tide of the fight with just that. And that is where I draw the line when it comes to these kind of mechanics, because that means most of these these tools, you're passively making your opponent stronger. And while they do have to still use it effectively to get anything out of it, it's obnoxious because things that are good, whether they're hit or on block, are incredibly powerful in terms of pace, controlling the pace of a match, or taking space back, or swinging things back in your favor. Rose Ultra 2 is like, in Super was absolutely, it was pretty absurd, because back then it was fully invincible until it was out, and it made two orbs spin around her, and then she could walk at you with these orbs. And if you were in a range of chip kill, you were dead. There was nothing you can do about it. And if she hits you, she wins. So it was like a win-win no matter how you slice it. You took Rose down, she backdashed twice, Ultra 2, walk at you. Doesn't work? Oh well. She took all the space back. Or 2, she chipped you out. Or 3, she hit you and she probably win. Like, those are the only 2. You could try fighting into it, but fighting into it is not as easy as it sounds, because if you try to trade out the orbs, odds are she'll catch you slipping anyway and get a full combo regardless. So things like that are very annoying. Juri had the same thing. Her Ultra 1 was the same function where she just popped her Ultra and she could apply pressure that she didn't have before. But hers wasn't that strong back then because Juri herself was not that strong, so it wasn't as egregious. But you know, it's just those kind of ultras never really sat well with me, because it's like it's almost the same thing as how strong Yun in Third Strike is, his Ganajin. But but at least as cheap as Ganajin is super cheap because of how quick you can get it, and you can just do it right in Third Strike. You can just do it, and it's easy to get. Now imagine if you just got Ganajin as Yun, but it's because you hit Yun, and he just gets it, and that's it. That means that you can't avoid him getting Ganajin, and it's so strong that it's like, what are you supposed to do? He's always gonna have Ganajin. Now, obviously, Third Strike is really hard to stop him from getting Ganajin anyway, but there's always a chance you can beat out Yun and just, you know, beat his ass and delay him getting Ganajin. But if it was inevitable, it would be so annoying to fight. I mean, he's already really annoying and the best. But can you imagine if he just always got it no matter what? Ridiculous. But yeah, things like that, like installs that are inherently powerful, are already strong, and then you have installs that are really really powerful and you get no matter what are even stronger. So things like so another instance of this is Marvel 3. So Marvel 3, they put X Factor in it. And at first, obviously now everyone loves Marvel 3 because YOLO, wins Marvel and all that, but Marvel 3 when it came out, everyone hated X Factor. And there's a reason for it, because if you just think back to Marvel 2 or any older versus title maybe, you couldn't just press 3 buttons and then the character is just no matter X Factor is so ridiculous. I know not everyone has played Marvel 3, but to put it in perspective, whoever your third character is, X Factor is cheap on every character. But if you have your last character, that third character, if you pop the X Factor on that character, that character becomes so powerful, you can easily turn the game around. Because all you need is a single hit. If you can land a single hit with that third character, at that point, if they were beating you 1-3, if you can put the incoming mix up on someone, they just guess wrong 2 times, they lose. Because the damage output on the third character is like triple. So you just need a bar and a combo. And that's easily manageable in Marvel 3. You just 1 bar, 1 combo, done. Not even a full combo, short combo. I mean, Sentinel goes from having to do a flight cancel combo to just pressing 5 C, dashing up, pressing BBC, landing down rocket punch, and then doing any super really, and they're dead. But the reason why I bring out these, the reason why I'm bringing up these in the conversation here is the whole reason these things exist, as far as I'm aware, they put these mechanics in the game in order to appeal to the casual audience in some kind of way, because they're not doing it to enhance the gameplay. Nothing is enhanced when you put these in. The only thing that can happen with these mechanics is you actually remove some of the meat of the game, because the game is actually a lot. I like to take Street Fighter V for example for this. Street Fighter V, the combat mechanics are terrible. I hate them. And the characters would be so much more fun if you had access to those moves at any given moment. If the game was just like that all the time, where the characters are just strong all the time instead of just halfway through the game where you're losing, the game would be way more fun. Obviously, this is anyone can say, no, I don't want my 5 to play like this. But to me, that's just how Street Fighter was before anyway. So if you're new to Street Fighter and you're like, I don't want Urien to just have Aegis Reflector all the time, well, guess what? That's just how it was. All right, you had Aegis Reflector almost all the time in Third Strike. You just built the bar and you used it. And then if you won, you got more bar and you got it at the start of the next game. So it was fun. As busted as Third Strike was, Urien in Third Strike is 100 times more fun than Urien in Street Fighter V. Karen is way more fun in the old, although she's not that great. But having Rekkas all the time is way more fun than having Rekkas for 3 seconds. You know? It's not ever a benefit to add these tools and then package them away but only access them later after you lose or you are losing. It's not more fun for the player. It doesn't do anything for the player. You're just locking away the funnest part of their kit to win to only the last moments of the fight. The main problem is that I wouldn't normally have to. Obviously, any game developer can do whatever they want with their fighting games. And if they want to package half the appeal of these characters away into a combat mechanic, and that's just their vision of the game is to make it like that, so be it. But it makes me conflicted and make me feel like an old man when I play Street Fighter 2 or Street Fighter 3 or Street Fighter 4, and I just have my entire moveset all the time, except for maybe the super. Like, I just have everything all the time. And it's in my access all the time, except for the super. Like, the super is the only thing that has to be earned through winning. Just makes me feel like an old man. Because now it's just like, am I going to have to just be used to this? Are we just going to have to get used to the characters being chopped up and then being divided into being divvied up into combat mechanics? There's another game that has this problem, but it's not quite the same. It's not exactly the same problem. The Tekken 7 added combat mechanics back in Tekken 6. And, most people didn't like the rage because it would make the it would make the damage swing so high when someone was about to lose. It wasn't very exciting to watch. And instead of getting rid of rage, they decided to just make it do more. Because it still does an absurd amount of damage now. But now you also get a move that's more than likely plus or a mix-up. The rage arts in Tekken 7 are combat mechanics that are given to you for losing. And if you land them, a lot of characters can take 80% of your health back. Like, to take down 80% of your health easy against the wall. Or halfway. If you're not even if you're against the wall. If you're like halfway to the wall, that's probably the sweet spot. Because you get a full combo into a wall splat. So if you're not fully against the wall, but you're kind of halfway between the wall and the center of the map, you're probably going to lose 80% of your health. But the rage arts wouldn't be so bad if they just weren't. The damage on them is so high and they're so safe. And then some of them are armored. Some of them just beat stuff. It's like, the issue is that if you are winning in Tekken 7 and you don't have like a checkmate Oki scenario where you have to, apply pressure and it's just so in your favor that odds are you're going to come out on top no matter what, there's always that chance that if they land a single anything and they're enraged, they'll just turn the whole game around. And you got to sit there and wonder, if I was enraged, would I have killed him? Because the answer is yes most of the time. If you both started off with rage and you had did what you did to that guy in the first place, he would have never won. He would have already died because of the additional damage. But that's the problem, though. It's that guy can only kill you because he gets the additional damage that he earned from getting his ass whooped. Because had you had that damage, the things you did to him already, well, he would have been dead. So you have to. Obviously, casual players don't care too much about this. They just whatever. But they're putting this in, I can't imagine, for people who are trying to be competitive, because it doesn't give us a good experience. It doesn't do anything for anyone. So if it's for casual players, I can't tell if this is actually making casual players stick around. The only thing that makes casual players stick around to me is additional content. Combat mechanics is not additional content. And I don't want them to be in my games anymore. Like I said, it's old man talk, right? Because it's just, I just can't, after playing fighting games for so long, I just don't see where this benefits anyone, even casual players. Because if truly the goal is to retain casual players, what they should focus on is teaching people how to play the game in the first place. Because as it stands, fighting game developers don't even teach their fighting games. They don't teach their casual audience how to play fighting games at all. Street Fighter 5 tutorial is trash. Tekken 7 does not have a tutorial, that's crazy. I mean, now it has like a punishment guide. It helps you learn how to punish. But the game came out with nothing like that. I mean, the best you could get is at the bottom of the screen in between loadings. It would tell you maybe some tips. As complicated as a game Tekken 7 is, you'd think that there would be some kind of tutorial in there to help someone who's new, kind of jump their way into this thing. Because I was new in Tekken 7. I was terrible. I was terrible for a long time. And there was no resources within the game to help me. I had to look outside of the game. I had to follow all kinds of top players and watch all kinds of tutorials. I watched like, well, it's funny as it sounds. I actually watched Eris's Tekken 7 tutorials when he started. Back when he was actually streaming Tekken 7, when it was practically, I think it was about the same time it was released. He started streaming Tekken 7 stuff, and he made like a couple tutorials here and there, and gave a couple of bits of advice about characters and how to play. I used those. That was kind of my best way to learn. And obviously, I got destroyed when I played Tekken 7 because I'm brand new and people were just mashing. And to defend yourself in that game is really hard. But there's nothing in the game to help me or teach me how to do any of that. There's mechanics in the game doesn't even talk about. I mean, how am I supposed to know what a chicken is? I don't. How am I supposed to know what a chicken is? There's nothing in the game to tell you can break parries or even how to break a parry. Hell, the game don't even tell you how to break a throw, really. It don't even tell you how to break throws. It don't teach you anything. Instead of making combat, trying to focusing on redesigning the games to work around these combat mechanics, they should spend more of their effort on teaching people how to play and giving more things for them to do solo. Because as it stands, if you play a fighting game, there are only two things you can do. You can play your friend or you can play online. There are some fighting games that have like a story mode or some cooperative things, but a majority of fighting games you play online or you play your friend. I don't count time trials. Those are time killers. They don't do anything for anyone. This is worthless content. No one's gonna buy a game for a time trial. Like that's trash. The story, they probably need more story mode, like more interactive story mode, and better tutorials. And maybe even like some kind of RPG style side event of some kind. I mean, anything. Because why would anyone buy a fight? If you're a casual guy, you're not interested in being good. You're really just more interested in playing your favorite character and enjoying them in different ways. And if your only way to enjoy this character is to get your ass whooped online, and the company sees like, oh man, these guys don't like losing, let's put combat mechanics in it. Those are like not the way to fix this guy. This guy is still going to be upset when he loses because he's not there to learn how to get good or beat these people. He'll never beat these people. This guy you're putting combat mechanics in, he will never beat anyone that actually cares about getting slightly better, ever. If you want to appease that guy, which is what I'm assuming the combat mechanics are for, like I can't get them to say it. They're not going to say, hey, we make these combat mechanics for people who are not good, so we get them to stay around. They're never going to say something like that. But if you're trying to appease that guy that logs in and plays once a week after work, and he will quit the game after 2 months because he's done with what he wants, and he's the biggest fan in the world still. If you want to appeal to that guy, then you got to give him more stuff to do. Because time trial, survival mode, online, that ain't cutting it. Got to do other stuff. Combat mechanics are not the way. And they ruin the game. I mean, they truly do ruin fighting games for me at this point. At this point, when I look at fighting games, I'm like, do they have some BS combat mechanics? No? Okay, let me give it a try. I'm looking at Guilty Gear Strive. I'm so damn happy there's not any combat mechanic in there. There is still technically a combat mechanic in the sense that they put the wall break in there in order to prevent someone from dying immediately, which that I hate. I don't like that at all. But it's more acceptable because you still get an extra amount of damage and you get meter for breaking the wall. So technically, it evens out a little bit because most characters, once they get that bar, they can finish you in the next combo anyway. So I'll let that slide. It's way better than Danger Time, which that's not even technically a combat mechanic either. Because, there's always a chance the guy who was losing is going to just die even faster. But, yeah. It doesn't seem like there's a reason. Arcs has got it right now. They got it right. The Grand Blue, they got that right. It sucks that the netcode is trash. Or what? Because it just didn't happen to get the train. It didn't hop on the train before it took off. But it's got plenty of content that people who enjoy Grand Blue would like. And on top of that, the game somewhat teaches you, but there's content there. There's something. Like, there's something there. It's better than nothing. It's a start. And I'm hoping that Guilty Gear will have even more of that for themselves. They obviously had MOM, and people that are only serious about competing and fighting and getting better, they're not gonna play MOM more than once. But that's not what MOM is there for. That's for people. That's just for people that are just playing once a week and they only have like 30 minutes to play and they just want to kill time and they're trying to become the best. They need that. If they want to appeal to people that aren't trying to become ridiculous in fighting games, that's the kind of stuff they need. And they're on the right track. Arxis is the closest one right now to getting this right. I don't know any other company that's even close to getting this right other than Arxis. Because Tekken definitely don't even close to got it. They keep adding more characters and telling people the rollback is 3 instead of actually giving us rollback and giving a correct tutorial on how to play the game. Capcom sucks. Their game is atrocious. The game design is terrible. I mean, now they have a ton of characters now and they have the story, but the game itself is like, that's gone. Like, that game already has horrible. Like, most of the public just assumes that game is whatever because it has such a shitty launch with nothing in it. And why would anyone want to go back and look at how Street Fighter V is doing? I'm assuming that is why it goes for free on weekend every so often. It's to get people to try it again now that they have tried to fix their problems in the past. But to me, that game is done. It's not even fun. To me. Like I said, to me, some people are like, I love Street Fighter V. For me, fuck that game. I don't like anything about the game. I don't like the combat mechanics. I don't like V-Trigger. It represents all the shit I hate. No chip damage, no V-Trigger. A lot of shit I hate in that game. But Drive, looking good. Tekken 7, I think Tekken 8 is going to be really good. If they can just get rid of these combat mechanics, which I don't know if they are, they'll be looking good. But you can see what you lose with these combat mechanics. You guys don't get anything out of it. You just lose shit. You don't ever get anything out of fucking combat mechanics. The only instance of where you get something out of combat mechanics is actually, to me, is like Samurai Showdown in Street Fighter 4, where you just get one big ass move and you throw it. And inherently, it's just a super. It's just a super. So, of course, it makes more sense for the comeback to be that. It's just an additional super. But, you know, the only reason why they would ever try to add more and more to this is to give the feel, to encourage people to keep trying even when they're down, which, you know, I guess it depends. That's person to person how much they value that. I think it's dumb as hell. Get rid of chip damage and then give people combat mechanics, because you're just making it so that the guy on the other side has to deal with this guy who could possibly end his life, even though he has a huge lead, with one button to a plus into a plus mix up, which could lead into death. Which that applies to almost every single game I have right now that has combat mechanics. Because Tekken 7 is like this, where you just block Heihachi's 1 back 2 rage drive. I mean, good luck. Because if it hits, you're probably dead. And then if you didn't block it, okay, if it hits, you're dead. And if you block it, he gets 1 mix. And if you're against the wall, and it's like a breakable wall, you may lose. Or you have like, I don't know, you have like Street Fighter 5, where you where you just make someone block a button, put a V trigger out, and then the best characters with V triggers, they usually just do that, and then they may just win. May or may not. Obviously, people are going to say, well, you know, you just got to have good defense. Well, at the end of the day, it's still really strong. It's still very powerful. It's still something they're getting out of losing. And then you have like Street Fighter 4. The 4 is like not even close to as bad as that when it comes to combat, because the ultras are so whatever. The only ones that are powerful are the ones that function as V triggers. And then you got, what's another game like? Oh, Marvel 3. Man, don't get hit. If that's the third character and he comes in and he swings and hits you, pop X Factor, now you're screwed. You're screwed. So it's it's not. It doesn't benefit anyone. No one enjoys it. I keep coming back to it. I know I'm ranting at this point, but no one enjoys that shit. I just don't get why developers connect the dots of people not having fun with fighting games to people not having a way to come back. Because it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with them not knowing how to play the fucking game and not being taught how to play the fucking game. So as soon as they get that shit done, then they'll be back on track with get shit right. And I don't know how long it's gonna take for them to realize this. Maybe, hopefully, this next generation of fighting games, Strive will lead. There won't be extra bars on your character that give you free pressure for nothing, for losing. Hopefully, Strive starts that and is incredibly successful, and then the rest of them will follow suit. Because it really seems like Street Fighter 4 did it, and then everyone else saw Street Fighter 4 success and like, all right, let's just copy the 4's bullshit, and then didn't put any thought into it. But that's all I got to say about that. I don't really have anything else to say about the topic. This is all I really wanted to talk about. It was just one thing I wanted to get off my chest. But all right, I'll catch you guys next week, and I think next week I'll have a guest to talk about something else. I have to figure out what the topic's going to be, but I'll let y'all know.